I'm close to 40, father of three, and I think about the hamster wheel constantly. Not in a panicked way, more like a quiet, persistent background question that surfaces on Sunday evenings when the week is about to restart. When you calculate, not precisely, just roughly, how many more weeks of this are required before something changes, the math is uncomfortable. Most people, in most jobs, are trading time for money at a rate that makes freedom a very distant thing. You earn, you spend, you earn again. The gap between what comes in and what stays, the gap that could compound into something, stays thin, and the years pass. I'm not complaining about my specific situation. I built something different: YouTube channels, online income, a path that looks unusual from the outside. But the question underneath is the same one that most people with jobs are carrying. How do you get out? Not dramatically, not in a burn everything and figure it out way, but actually out, actually free, actually in a position where the work you do is work you chose rather than work you need. This video is about that question, about the FIRE concept: financial independence, retire early, not as a fantasy, but as a framework, about what it actually takes, about how the job you might hate right now could be, if you use it correctly, the thing that eventually sets you free. One thing first, nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is how I think about these things, based on my own experience and reading. Talk to actual professionals about your specific situation. Now let's get into it. The hamster wheel is not the job itself. I want to be precise about this because the misidentification of the problem leads to the wrong solution. The hamster wheel is the structure in which the job sits. The structure where you earn money, you spend approximately what you earn. You need next month's paycheck to maintain this month's life. And therefore you cannot stop, not for a month, not for 6 months, not to try something different, not to deal with a health crisis without catastrophic financial consequences, not to be genuinely present for your children rather than constantly managing the anxiety of making sure the income continues. That's the wheel, the financial structure that makes stopping dangerous. The job is just the mechanism that keeps the wheel turning. And this distinction matters because you can have a good job, a job you genuinely like, that pays well, that treats you decently, and still be on the wheel. And you can have a job you dislike and be systematically working your way off it. The question is not, do I like my job? The question is, what is my job doing to my financial structure? Is it widening the gap, the space between what comes in and what you spend, and deploying that gap somewhere that grows? Or is it maintaining a lifestyle that requires the job to continue indefinitely? Most people are in the second camp, not through laziness, through the absence of a different framework. The FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, is a framework. It comes from a book called Your Money or Your Life from the 1990s, and it's been developed significantly since then by a community of people who decided the conventional financial timeline, work until 65, retire with whatever you've accumulated, was not the only option. The core math is simple. Your spending determines how much wealth you need to be financially independent. The conventional rule of thumb: you need roughly 25 times your annual spending saved and invested. At that point, the standard assumption is that a 4% annual withdrawal from that portfolio is sustainable indefinitely. Your investments grow at a rate that covers the withdrawal. This is called the 4% rule. It has academic basis, it has debate, it has nuance. But as a rough framework, it's useful. Example: if you spend 30,000 euros a year to live the life you want, you need approximately 750,000 euros invested. If you spend 50,000 euros a year, you need 1.25 million euros. If you spend 20,000 euros a year, you need 500,000 euros. The spending number is the variable you control most directly. And the gap between your income and your spending, consistently deployed into investments, is the engine that gets you there. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-free-eventually scheme. The timeline depends on how wide you can make the gap and how consistently you can maintain it. But it's real. And it's significantly faster than the conventional work until 65 timeline for people who take it seriously. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Your job, the one that might feel like a trap, is actually your best current resource for escaping the trap. Not forever, but right now, while you're in it. It provides stable, predictable income. That's not nothing. When you're building something, predictable income is the foundation that allows you to take calculated risks rather than desperate ones. It provides time, specifically the time outside work hours, during which you can build the parallel track. It may provide skills you're undervaluing: communication, technical knowledge, project management, understanding how organizations work, how clients think, how problems get solved at scale. These are worth something in the market beyond your current employer. It may provide network, people who know things, who know other people, who could become future clients, collaborators, or sources of opportunity in ways you can't predict. The mistake most people make with a job they want to leave is treating it as the enemy, mentally checking out, doing the minimum, burning the goodwill they've built. This is backwards. You want to use the job intelligently for as long as you're in it, not as performance for its own sake, because the company deserves maximum effort forever, but because the reputation, the relationships, the skills, and the income are all resources that become available to you after you leave. Burning them doesn't hurt the company, it hurts you. I think about my own trajectory here. I didn't leave a traditional job to build what I have. I started building while managing other things, but the principle is the same. The income I had in the early years, before the channels were generating anything significant, that income funded the experiment. It paid the tools, the subscriptions, the time invested in learning what worked. Without that stability underneath, the experiment would have been much harder. The skills I'd built before, writing, thinking, communicating ideas, those were directly transferable. The channels didn't require starting from zero. The time discipline I developed, getting things done consistently even when motivation was inconsistent, that was foundational. The job, or the income equivalent, was not the obstacle. It was the platform. The obstacle was the thinking. The belief that I had to choose, completely and immediately, between security and something better. The binary that made the choice feel impossible. The reality is almost never binary. You build while you earn. You test while you have stability underneath. You make the transition when the numbers support it, not when the frustration peaks. The gap between income and spending is everything. I want to spend real time on this because it's the thing most financial content underemphasizes in favor of specific investment strategies and specific tools. The specific tool matters less than the gap. The specific investment vehicle matters less than the gap. The specific timeline matters less than the gap. Wide gap, consistently maintained, deployed into diversified investments over time. This is the whole mechanism. Everything else is detail. So how do you widen the gap? Two directions: more coming in or less going out. Most people focus almost entirely on more coming in, the income side. More work, promotion, side income. This is reasonable. Income growth is real leverage. But the spending side is usually more immediately actionable. And it has a double effect that income growth doesn't. Every euro you stop spending is a euro you don't need to earn. And it's a euro that can go to the gap. And it reduces the target number, the 25 times you're spending. Concrete version. If you spend 40,000 euros a year, you need 1 million euros to reach financial independence. If you reduce spending to 30,000 euros a year by making genuine changes to what your life costs, you need 750,000 euros. That's 250,000 euros less to accumulate. And if the gap is also wider by the amount you stopped spending, you're accumulating faster. The double effect. The spending reduction lifestyle is not deprivation, it's deliberate. Knowing which spending is buying you genuine quality of life versus which spending is habitual, social comparison driven, or filling an emotional gap with consumption. Some spending is worth everything. The experiences that matter, the time with people who matter, the things that genuinely improve your daily life. Some spending is noise, the subscriptions you don't use, the upgrade that doesn't improve anything real, the purchase that seemed necessary at the time and is now forgotten. The FIRE community tends to track spending obsessively, not as punishment, but as awareness. You can't deliberately widen the gap without knowing where the money is currently going. What to do with the gap once you have it? This is where it gets into territory that requires professional advice specific to your situation, your country, your tax environment. I'm going to speak in general terms. The basic principle: invest consistently in diversified assets for a long time. Index funds, funds that track broad market indices, are the most commonly recommended vehicle in the FIRE community for most people. Low cost, diversified, don't require active management, historically have produced positive returns over long time horizons. The key variables: how much you invest, how consistently you invest, how long you leave it. Time is the most powerful variable. The same amount invested at 25 and at 35 produces dramatically different outcomes at 55 because of compounding. The earlier you start, the more the math works in your favor. The consistency matters more than the amount at early stages. Building the habit, making it automatic, not interrupting it when the market has a bad year. This is what actually happens with most people's FIRE journey. The math says one thing. The emotional reality of watching your portfolio drop 20% and not panic selling is a different challenge. Financial independence through savings and investment is one path. It's slow for most people. The timeline depends heavily on the gap and the return. The parallel track, building something alongside the job that eventually generates income independently of your time, can accelerate the timeline significantly. This is the part that requires honesty about capacity. You have a job that takes roughly 40 hours a week. You have a family, in my case, 3 sons, a home, a marriage that needs presence. You have physical limits, the spine in my case, the basic human need for sleep and recovery. The time available for building something parallel is genuinely limited. Not zero, but limited. And this makes focus critically important. The common mistake is spreading the limited time across too many parallel projects. Trying 3 things at once because all 3 seem promising, building momentum in none of them. The better approach is choosing one thing, the thing that has the best combination of potential, alignment with your existing skills, and your actual interest in doing it, and giving that one thing the limited available time consistently. One thing for an hour a day over 2 years produces something real. 5 things for 20 minutes each produce 5 things that haven't gotten anywhere. This is not exciting advice. It's the advice that actually works. What kinds of parallel income are worth building? Things where the income doesn't require your presence for every unit of output. Content, YouTube, writing, podcasts, requires significant upfront work to build, but can generate ongoing income from content that exists and continues to be discovered. Digital products, courses, tools, templates are created once and can be sold repeatedly. Investments, dividends, rental income require capital rather than ongoing time. Skills that can be freelanced, consulting, specialized knowledge, technical skills, require your time but at a rate typically significantly higher than employed work. The principle: you're trying to build income sources where the ratio of income to time is better than your current job, or where the income doesn't require ongoing active time at all. This takes years, not weeks, not months, but it's happening while you have the stability of the job underneath, which is the advantage most people don't use. I want to spend some time on something that the financial independence community doesn't always address clearly. Freedom from work is not, by itself, a destination. The person who reaches financial independence without knowing what they want to do with the freedom, without a sense of what they're building toward rather than just what they're escaping from, often finds that the arrival is less satisfying than expected. This is documented in FIRE community writing. The people who retire early and then feel aimless, purposeless, unsure what the point is. The freedom arrived, and there was nothing waiting on the other side of it. The Stoic philosophers I often talk about on this channel had something useful here. Marcus Aurelius, who had more external freedom than almost any human in history, wrote constantly about the importance of meaningful work. Not because he had to work, because the alternative to meaningful engagement with the world was not peace. It was a kind of emptiness. The goal is not to stop working. The goal is to choose the work. To be in a position where what you do each day is done because you've decided it matters, not because the financial structure requires it. That's a different relationship to work, not the absence of work. And knowing what that chosen work looks like, what you actually want to be building, what contribution you actually want to make, that's worth knowing before you arrive at financial independence, not after. For me, this question is part of why the channels exist, not purely for income. Because thinking about these things, philosophy, money, how to live well, is genuinely what I'm interested in. Because saying things that might be useful to people who are navigating the same questions is meaningful work to me. The income is important. The freedom it represents is important. But the thing I'm actually doing has to matter to me independently of what it pays. I think about this as a father as well. The model I want to show my sons is not escape from obligation. It's choose obligation deliberately. The difference between doing things because you have to and doing things because you've decided they matter. That's a distinction worth teaching. And it's only teachable from the position of having made it yourself. Close to 40, 3 sons, thinking about the hamster wheel. Here's where I've landed. The wheel is not the enemy. The wheel without a plan is the enemy. The job that feels like a trap can be the launchpad. If you use the income to widen the gap, deploy the gap consistently into investments, build the parallel track with the limited time that exists, and know what you're building toward. None of this is fast. The FIRE community is honest about this. Even aggressive savers with high incomes need years, often a decade or more. But the alternative is not faster. The alternative is working indefinitely without the gap, without the investments, without the parallel track, and arriving at 60 in the same position you were at 35, except with fewer options. The plan is not dramatic. It's not exciting to execute. It's spend less than you earn, invest the difference, build something on the side, know what freedom is for, and do all of that before you need to. Nothing in this video is financial advice. Talk to professionals about your specific situation, your country's tax environment, your specific numbers. But the framework, the thinking behind it, that's available to anyone. Leave a comment. Tell me where you are in this. Job you want to leave, something you're building, a FIRE number you're working toward. I read everything. See you in the next one.